I have read this book before. I know who he becomes, and I know what he takes. I have decided to take it first.
The woman laughing inside the hotel room was supposed to be mine. The man laughing with her was the kind of man protagonists got to be. Tall, handsome, untouchable, in every way a story usually insisted on. Future Mercenary King, future Godslayer, the kind whose enemies ended up in the dirt by chapter 3, with their entire family on the same pyre. I was his enemy. My hand was already raised to knock. 3 seconds from now, I was supposed to kick the door, take a beating I would not remember most of, and start a chain of events that ended in 3 days with me in an ambulance, and a few weeks after that with everyone who shared my surname in the ground. The rich, cheated husband, the furious young master, the mercenary king walking away with a grin and a clean towel. The cameras were not watching yet. Everything about the next 2 minutes was supposed to be mine to spoil and his to win. The spoiled young master standing outside that door at midnight with his hand on the wood was me. The name the hotel had checked me in under was my name. The body was mine in the only way a body had ever been anybody else's. I lowered the hand. I smiled. It was a small smile. Nobody was meant to see it, and nobody did. I had just remembered something very useful. I knew exactly what the man inside that room was going to do over the next year of his life. Every move, every treasure, every woman, every corpse, including mine, unless I went first. A small, polite chime sounded behind my eyes. It did not belong to any device I was carrying. It spoke exactly 1 sentence, delivered with the flat enthusiasm of a banker reading somebody else's mail. Something about altering a story, something about being paid to refuse, something about a host, a lifespan, and a door I was not going to kick. I turned around. I walked back to the elevator. I called the bodyguard waiting in the idling car downstairs and told him the plan had changed. Kicking the door was off the menu. Everything else was on it. Within the hour, he had done it. A pregnant woman, hired from an agency on the other side of town, coached in the car on the way over, waving a forged marriage certificate. Reporters tipped off, envelopes thick enough to fold badly. A police captain who owed my eldest uncle a favor from 2 winters ago. The door came down. Ye Tian came out with a towel around his waist and a television camera 3 inches from his face. I watched it from my car on the corner. I watched the Wolf King of the Underworld try to explain, on live stream, why the pregnant stranger sobbing on his shoulder was not his wife. The system chime came again, softer now, like a clerk tallying a receipt. Plot altered, points credited, lifespan extended from 3 days to 33. I spent the first 2,000 points the same afternoon. A middle tier draw pulled up something the system called a supreme quality special cultivation space. Outside time froze. Inside, I could burn days of life for hours of work. I burned 10. I came out with the god devil heaven swallowing art running clean through meridians the original owner had never been able to open, early dark strength in my blood, and the 9 strength fist 2 layers deep in my hand. Ah Long came in while I was still toweling off. I told him about Liu Qian's brother, a gambling addict, soft target, borrowed company money at a rigged casino, co-signed his family's real estate against the loan, clean trap. Within a week, the Liu family's company was a hole in the ground, and Liu Qian's brother had been quietly removed from the city. Liu Qian herself stopped answering her phone shortly after that. Whatever the original owner had felt for her, I did not. I did not need to know where she went. I had given the order at the hotel door. Ah Long only needed the timing. The next morning I went to campus. Jinghai University, cafeteria number 2, had a line at one window that was twice as long as every other line, and at the end of the line was a girl in a grease-stained apron ladling soup. Ye Qingyan, school goddess, commoner scholarship student, part-time cook, sister of a mercenary who did not yet know she was alive. Every man in the book who mattered would eventually fall in love with her. I needed her to be afraid of me first. The universe handed me the setup. A spoiled heir named Lin Bai, a boy from a Sichuan family's Jinghai outpost, had picked today to confess to her in the middle of the cafeteria with rented actors and a bouquet. I watched him kneel. I watched him recite a speech about her mother's hospital bills, her father's gambling, her brother's failures. I watched her go white under the cafeteria lights. She said no. He grabbed her arm. I walked into the frame and kicked him in the back. He did what his kind always do. He screamed for bodyguards. 2 of them came in hard, ex-military, the kind of men who had never lost a fight they didn't want to lose. Somewhere above us on a balcony I never looked at, the man my father had sent to follow me moved exactly once. Both bodyguards went through a table without a sound. The older of the two, a man named Ada, stopped kowtowing long enough to listen when I told him exactly what would happen to him and his family if Lin Bai walked out of the cafeteria, still able to chase a girl across a campus. He wept. He apologized. He took a steel stool to the boy's knees, twice, with a precision that suggested he had hoped to never use it. Lin Bai passed out. I did not look at him again. I turned to Ye Qingyan to ask her for her number. She looked at me the way you look at a thing that has walked out of a drain. She stammered a thank you. She stepped around the unconscious boy on the tile like he was a puddle, and she left the building at something close to a run. I stood there holding a phone I hadn't unlocked and wondered, for the first time since I had woken up in this body, if I had miscalculated. The men behind me said nothing. The crowd said everything. I filed the sound away. I was still filing it when Chu Mingyao arrived, my fiancé, family arranged second great family of Jinghai, engaged to me since we were both too small to know what the word meant. In the book, she was one of the 5 campus beauties. In person, she was taller than the book had bothered to say, and angrier, and already halfway through the speech, the original Jiang Fan had agreed to let her finish. Today was the day we dissolved the engagement. Today was the day she walked out of my family's orbit and into the arms of the man she actually loved, a quiet boy named Su Yi, another protagonist-shaped silhouette the book had been careful to sketch. I told her I had changed my mind. I pulled her down onto my lap in the middle of a plaza full of witnesses. I listed the ways Su Yi could disappear. I named the street he lived on. I named the friends he studied with. I named the hour he came home at night. She went still under my hands, the way a bird goes still when a cat stops pretending. She agreed to a date. Somewhere in the stairwell behind us, a boy I had never met was watching. I knew he was there the same way I knew everything else. I had read the page. Su Yi, jealous, poor, proud, cultivating a nameless blood technique out of a pamphlet he had found in a dead man's pocket. By the time I let Meng Yao stand up, he had already decided to become strong enough to kill me. That was fine. I had decided months ago, in a life I no longer lived, that I was going to let him. The rest of the day moved at the speed the book had promised. A manure truck, parked on a side street along Ye Tian's route home, opened its valve as his car pulled alongside. The system chimed pleasantly. At the edge of the harbor, Ah Long sat Liu Qian down at a table with a folder of photographs I did not need to see, and an envelope thick enough to settle a debt nobody would ever name. She made a phone call. She did not get her young master. By morning, Liu Qian had left the city, and the men in the photographs had left the city with her, and the harbor was as it had always been, which was to say, not asking questions. And somewhere across town, in a study lined with expensive books nobody had ever read, a man named Lin Huayang finished reviewing a file with my name on the cover. His son was in a wheelchair, crying. His son's bodyguards had been quietly dismissed and would not be employable in any city the Lin family did business in for the rest of their working lives. Lin Huayang knew by now that I was the eldest son of the richest family in Jinghai. He knew what touching me would cost. He ran the numbers anyway, because the Lin family of Sichuan had not sent him here to run away from great families. They had sent him to start a fire in Jinghai and watch who ran out of the smoke. He decided to kill me. I did not know yet that he had decided. The book hadn't mentioned a Lin assassination in this phase, which meant the book had been wrong, which meant my meta-knowledge had just developed its first hole. My lifespan counter read 33 days and climbing. My family, in its villa on the hill, slept the sleep of people who did not yet know they had made any enemies. Somewhere above them, on a balcony, the old steward pretended not to stand on. Uncle Fu poured himself a cup of tea. I went home. I slept. Outside the window, the sea was very quiet. The city was very quiet, and the Lin family, in the dark, began to move. The Lin family moved in the dark. I moved in the dark too. By the time they sent the truck, I had already spent another 10 days inside the cultivation space. My lifespan counter sat at 42. My strength had climbed from early dark energy to late dark energy. The 9 strength fist stood at 5 hidden layers now, each strike a loaded spring behind the last. The book had never mentioned any of this. The book had never mentioned Lin Huayang either. I did one thing the book had also never bothered to cover. I called Chu Mingyao. I told her we were going to dinner and then a movie. I told her I expected her to sit next to me at the table. When she refused, I mentioned her younger brother by name, the hour he came home from school, the street his driver used. She stopped refusing. She put on the dress her mother kept pointing at. I knew the Lin family would try something. I did not know when. Taking Meng Yao was selfish and deliberate at once. She was the loudest possible advertisement that the Jiang heir was out in traffic with only a few bodyguards, sitting in an easy car on an easy road. If Lin Huayang wanted a window, I had just cut him one. Dinner passed the way dinners passed with her now, a plate barely touched. polite answers in short sentences, a hand she did not quite let me hold. I sat close enough for the restaurant staff to see, and far enough that she did not flinch. On the way to the theater, I took a slower road than Ah Long would have chosen. The truck came at an intersection where no one should have been speeding. It came sideways and very fast. I turned the wheel into a tree to break the angle. Metal screamed. The airbag punched my chest. Meng Yao screamed once and then went very quiet. I had the driver's door open before the steam had cleared. A small dark weight cut the air past my ear. I ducked without thinking about ducking. The flying knife put itself into the pillar where my head had been. Two men stepped out of the shadow of the truck bed. Late dark force. Lin family internal guards. The kind who carry a tooth pill and a blade set in the same belt loop. The first one said something aloud about the rumor that the Zhang heir could not cultivate. He said it admiringly, the way you admire a hand of cards you did not expect your opponent to hold. I did not answer him. Ah Long's car skidded in behind mine. 4 of my men went down in the next 30 seconds. Throats opened before they could aim. Ah Long took one assassin with Xiao Hu. I took the other one alone. His first combination landed on my guard and nearly broke it. His second combination was faster. He was a professional. He had trained for 20 years to be what I had trained for 10 days to beat. I let him land 3 times, not because I had to, but because my body needed 3 landings to learn the rhythm. On the 4th exchange, the fist came out of me with every hidden layer stacked into a single punch. 5 hidden forces went into his chest. He did not fly so much as fold. He was dead before the last echo finished traveling up his spine. The worst part was not the killing. The worst part was that I had wanted him alive. I needed a mouth to interrogate, and I had just closed one. I turned to the wounded one. Ah Long was already on him. He had been carrying something the Lin family had built into the lining of his collar. A kill switch wired to the moment capture became certain. It triggered before we could strap his hands. He stopped breathing before he could be made to talk. He said one thing first, something grand about how other men would come for me even if he did not, and that was the end of his usefulness. In his hand was a small lacquered token with the character for Wang pressed into the wood, a Wang family sigil, a frame-up, clumsy as the truck itself. I put the token in my pocket. I took out my phone. I called the head of the Wang family and said the words that made him curse me in a voice soft enough that his wife would not hear and cooperative enough that he could not refuse. Someone had just tried to have me killed while carrying his family's name like a signpost. He and I would now investigate it together. By morning, his men would be checking every doorway I suggested. Meng Yao was out of the car by then, walking toward me on unsteady legs. There was glass in her hair. She looked at the bodies, then at me, then at the truck. She did not say anything. She just wrapped my arm in the strip of cloth she had torn from the hem of her own dress, silent, careful, the way you handle a thing you do not want to notice you are touching. I had the 2 assassin bodies loaded into a van while she watched. I sent them the same night, packed into 5 body bags for ceremony, to the house Ye Tian was renting off the books. The message wrote itself. Someone is framing me to come after you. Return to sender. I learned later that Ye Tian sensed Zhang Yang at the edge of the courtyard the moment my men stepped away from the bags. Zhang Yang, my father's gift, mid-stage transformation realm, the man I had not known I had. Ye Tian's poison wolf wanted to charge. Ye Tian held him back, Wolf King of the underworld, protagonist of destiny, standing very still in his own doorway because an aura, older and deeper than his own, had quietly put a hand on the back of his neck. He swore to kill me. He did not move. At the hospital, Meng Yao took her revenge in the only currency she had. She bandaged me the way you bandage a man you are furious at, layer on layer, like a mummy, until only my eyes showed. She laughed once, soft and startled, when she stepped back to look at her own work. It was the first time I had heard that laugh since the plaza. I did not move while she rapped. I did not want her to stop. My father called 10 minutes later. He already knew. The Lin family, he said, not the Wang. Lin Huayang was the hand. He asked if I wanted help. I said I would handle it personally. He was quiet for a moment, and then I heard him smile through the receiver. He had just learned his good-for-nothing son could cultivate, and his good-for-nothing son was also asking for a favor. One, Zhang Yang, attached. I had authorization now. I was not a rogue heir moving clan muscle. I was clan muscle, being moved by clan order. My mother came on the line next. I introduced Meng Yao as her daughter-in-law for the joke, for the bruise it left on Meng Yao's pride. and because I wanted the word in my mother's ear before the night got any darker. My mother beamed through the phone. Meng Yao pinched the inside of my arm through the bandages and smiled for the microphone. My lifespan counter ticked. The Lin family kept moving. Across the city, Lin Bai had been moving too. He had picked Ye Qingyan up from a back alley on her way home from the cafeteria. He had driven her to the villa I was about to storm. He had drugged her with something the bodyguards looked away from. He had aimed a camera at the door because he wanted what came next on tape. The bodyguard pouring the drug felt sorry for her. The bodyguard did it anyway. The book had not contained this page. The book had not needed to. Lin Bai wrote it himself. I moved on the Lin villa within the hour. 5 peak dark force men, Ah Long, Zhang Yang, and me. We came through the outer wall like a hand closing around a moth. The patrols went down in a silence I could taste. The butler, Old Yang, peak dark force, a man who knew the exact price of the room he was standing in, sensed Zhang Yang's aura first. He told Lin Huayang to run before the door opened. He was 3 seconds too slow. Lin Huayang ordered him to attack me. He would not. He was not stupid. Lin Huayang came at me himself, a mid-stage dark force heir swinging a cultivator's worth of wounded pride, and Zhang Yang pinned him to the floor with nothing but the weight of his presence. Old Yang went down next to him, face against the same marble. I gave the butler a choice. Show his loyalty by removing the rest of Lin Huayang's hidden assets from the house, the East Wing first, or join Lin Huayang on the floor. He moved through the house quickly. The guards in the corridor stopped being a problem. He hesitated at the bedroom door. The mistress in the East Wing was pregnant. She came out before he stepped in. She said something I had not expected, in a voice low enough that Lin Huayang heard every word. The child was not Lin Huayang's. The child was the butler's. She had video on her phone, kept the way women keep video in a house that is not safe. For the night, the house got worse. She played it out loud. Lin Huayang watched his own servant kiss his own pregnant mistress on a screen held by the pregnant mistress herself, and something inside him moved an inch that he would never be able to move back. I sent her out the side door with one of my men and an envelope and an address she would never need to leave again. The butler turned to me with his hands up and began to explain how loyal he would be, how quickly, for how long. I did not need his loyalty. The system allowed me one erasure at my current realm, and I had already decided who. I laid a palm on his forehead. The technique burned through my consciousness like a candle being pinched. His eyes went wide and then went flat and then went nothing. When he stood again, he stood a half step behind me. No name, no past. I called him Shadow 1. The pattern was set. I left Lin Huayang with Zhang Yang. I went upstairs to find his son. I found Lin Bai slumped in his wheelchair by an empty bed. The bed was empty because Ye Qingyan was on the floor next to it, drugged past speech, eyes open and not seeing. I lifted her. I carried her into a clean room across the hall. I laid her down. I covered her with a blanket. I waited until her breathing settled into the rhythm of someone sleeping rather than someone being kept asleep. The system chimed against the side of my mind. It read her aura the way a man reads a letter he had been waiting all year to receive. Profound yin sacred body, dormant, awakening. The system listed 3 things she would mean to my cultivation if she ever stood willingly within reach of it. I understood then why Ye Tian, in the book, eventually moved the world to find his lost sister. I understood then that her body was also a ladder, and that a villain with a ladder does not leave it leaning against someone else's wall. I did not touch her. I did not need to. The reading the system took from a foot of distance gave me 1/5 of a stage of free progress on her aura alone. I sat in the chair across from her bed until her color came back. I told Ah Long where to deliver her in the morning. A hospital under a different name, paid in full, no questions asked. She would wake up not knowing what had happened, only that she was somewhere safe. That was the kindest thing the night could give her, and I gave it. Before I left that room, I went back for Lin Bai. The drug had already taken him further than the law was going to be able to walk him back from. I called the police myself, used a number that did not connect to my name, and told them where to find him. I told them which camera the footage was on. The cell that history had already booked for him would be filled before noon. By then, Lin Huayang was sitting across a folding table in the dining hall with his wrists zip-tied. I sat down opposite him. I put a small camera between us and played him the tape from upstairs. His son, the drug, the room, not all of it. Enough. Lin Huayang begged me to stop it. I did not stop it. I watched his face instead. A father's face is a kind of map. I was reading for roads. I asked him a question. He did not answer. I told him every minute he did not answer was a minute his son spent in the hands of a police database that did not yet know whose son he was. I told him every hour of silence was an hour the Sichuan Lin family would not know whether the Jinghai branch had been swept up by the Wang family or by something far quieter. I told him I had time. I asked the question question again. The hour after that did not need a dice roll. Lin Huayang's body collapsed inward, the way a tent collapses when you pull the wrong rope. He named every Lin family outpost in Jinghai. He named every cover business, every bribed official, every safe house. He named the Sichuan Lin family in the background, the spiritual land they were eyeing, the sacred site key they had been told to position for. He asked only that his betrayal be kept from the family he had betrayed. I gave him my word. I kept it the cleanest way possible. I gave the outpost addresses to the Wang family the next morning. Let them go kick those doors. Let the Sichuan Lin family see a Wang family handprint on their Jinghai operations and turn the guns inward. My name stayed off every report. That night, Lin Huayang's car left a coastal road at a speed nobody could explain. Lin Bai was not with him. Lin Bai was already in a holding cell across town with a number for a name. Jinghai police closed the highway file before sunrise. The cell file would close more slowly. Both files had the same author. The Lin Villa burned behind us. Shadow 1 stood a half step behind my left shoulder and watched the flames without a flicker. Meng Yao watched them with her arms crossed tight against her ribs. On the drive back to the hospital, she finally spoke. She said the word Dragon Group out loud. She said men who killed this many men in one night drew a kind of attention ordinary police could not close. I told her not to worry. I did not mean it. I just did not know yet how much she had been right. Behind us, the villa kept burning. Somewhere in Sichuan, a family that had not yet heard the word Wang was about to start hearing nothing else. Somewhere in a rented house across the city, Ye Tian held Poison Wolf back for the second time in a week. And somewhere inside a bandage job done with a torn hem, Chu Mengyao, who had never once asked me if I was human, laid her hand on my wrist for half a second and took it away again before I could turn my head. The counter in the corner of my eye read 142 days and climbing. The butler who had been Old Yang a few hours ago waited for his next instruction. I went home. I slept. The book I had read in my old life had just lost its next chapter, and the one after that, and the one after that. From here on, the pages belonged to me. She woke up swinging. Ye Qingyan came out of the drug the way a trapped animal comes out of sleep, both arms up, teeth bared, a short, choked sound that was not quite a scream. She thought I was Lin Bai. For a second, I let her. Then, I caught her wrists, held them still, and pointed at the tablet on the nightstand. The tablet played the Lin Villa footage without mercy. The bed, the needle, Lin Bai giving instructions to a bodyguard who did not want to give them. My men coming through the door, me lifting her into a different room, onto cleaner sheets, pulling a blanket up to her shoulders. The tablet did not play what came next. I had edited that part out. Some pages do not need to be read twice. She watched the whole thing on a face that lost color in slow stages. When it ended, she tried to apologize through a throat that did not want to make sound. And the apology was the kind that cost something on the way out. I did not accept it cleanly. I gave her something instead. I told her I had already paid the outstanding portion of her mother's hospital bills. The ones coming would be paid as well. She would not be in a position to refuse them because the hospital had already cashed the transfer. She sat there with her hair wet at the temples and her mother dying in another part of the city, and she did not thank me. She asked me what I wanted. I told her honestly, nothing she could give me on a clean morning. The transaction was already done. The transaction had been done before she woke. She dressed without speaking. At the door, she told me, flatly, that she would not be a charity. She would owe the debt. She would repay it. I did not argue. I told her she was free to walk. She walked. The system chimed as the elevator closed behind her. Profound yin sacred body. Aura. Reading confirmed. Base resonance acquired. 4 more contact range readings to the next compatibility threshold. Mysterious yin stone required for full activation. Location available for 10,000 villain points. I had 4,000. I closed the menu and turned to the next operation. Across the city at that same hour, in a low-lit room that smelled of boiled rice and old sweat, a black-robed figure was sitting across from Su Yi. I had built the costume myself. Old Ghost wore the robe and the mask, and carried the title he had chosen for the theater, Ghostmaster of the Rakshasa Order, an assassin guild 2 phases older than the Earth, and currently employing exactly 1 person and a backup. He played the part to Su Yi, the way you play a candle to a moth. A video of me with Chu Mengyao to start the fire. A bucket of white tiger blood on the table as good faith. A phone, an encrypted contact, a first assignment. A knife with a coating he did not name. Su Yi drank the blood. Of course he did. He had already been boiling pigs in a backyard for 2 weeks. A bucket of what had once walked on 4 legs was a promotion. He took the assignment. The mark was one poison wolf, a foreign mercenary attached to a young man Su Yi had never met. The operation ran at 7 the next evening. Su Yi wore a delivery uniform and a skin-thin human mask that did not have to fool anyone for long. Poison Wolf opened the door, smiling. He stopped smiling a heartbeat later. He went down before he finished saying good evening. Ye Tian, in the next room with a phone in his hand arranging my assassination, came through the door a half-second late. Su Yi was not a fighter. Ye Tian broke both his arms in a single exchange and would have ended the night there if Su Yi had not hit the blood-burning technique his ghost master had planted in him for exactly this moment. The room filled with red steam. Old Ghost's second man came through the window in the smoke, lifted a barely conscious Su Yi, and vanished down an alley before Ye Tian could clear the haze. Ye Tian stood in a room with a dead brother and a fled assassin and the first sirens of the night. He swore at a ceiling he could not reach. He went out a window. He left Poison Wolf's body on the floor because the police were already on the stairs. I watched all of it from a living room 2 districts over on a laptop Ah Long had positioned. The system tallied the receipt. Protagonist lieutenant killed, 1,000 points. Protagonist forced to fight, 2,000 points. Plot rewritten, lifespan tick. Somewhere in a basement editing suite, Old Ghost was already cutting a new file together. A delivery man in a mask that looked just enough like Ye Tian. A blade that had been in Poison Wolf's ribs a second earlier. A video with a name pressed into the metadata. Before sunrise, it was on the private server of the Sichuan Lin family patriarch. The Lin patriarch's third son wanted to send every master in the house on the next plane to Jinghai. The patriarch did not. He was not a stupid man. He asked questions instead, and one of those questions unlocked a door I did not know I was standing behind yet. The door was a small world. He called it the spiritual land, a pocket of concentrated spiritual energy, rare materials, ferocious beasts, a cultivator's vault buried under Jinghai's 4 great families, opened jointly once every 3 years. The next opening was 2 months out. 3 years ago, a traitor in the Wang family had leaked the location beyond the circle. That was why the Lin branch had been in my city in the first place. That was why every power within 1,000 miles was quietly moving pieces toward my harbor. The massacre of the Lin Jinghai branch was a tremor. The spiritual land was the quake. I listened to that conversation twice. Shadow One's channels into what was left of the Lin servant network had gone quiet, but a careful question to a careful butler in Sichuan produced what I needed. I closed the laptop at 4 in the morning with a new name on my list and a new deadline on my calendar. The system paid out. Assassination plus framing plus a seed against my own protagonist, all in the same night. The rewards tier jumped 2 steps. Among them was a body-refining art called the Divine Elephant Suppressing Prison Technique. The system could not rank it. It was simply a door the system could not see through. I called my father. I asked him, very casually, whether the Zhang Vault contained any oddly colored metals. He thought for a beat. Then he remembered a dark red meteorite nobody had been able to melt, half a man tall, several tons. It had been sitting in a reinforced sub-basement since before I was born. He had it shipped to the villa that afternoon. The Divine Elephant technique drank the meteorite in under an hour. What was left was a single drop of red the size of a fingernail. I swallowed it. The next 2.5 hours were the worst I have ever spent in this body. I am not going to describe them. I will say only that when I stood up again, my skin could not be cut with a surgical blade at half pressure and healed a full force stroke in under half a minute. The system reclassified me. Mid-grade mortal body, equivalent on paper to a mid-stage transformation realm cultivator's durability. In theory, strong enough to survive a single exchange with a late-stage transformation realm man. The spiritual land was named. The clock was set. I drank a glass of water and went to make tea for the morning. The morning never got that far. The bell at the front gate rang at 8:40. I went down in an unbuttoned shirt and opened the door on 4 officers of the Dragon Group, led by a woman I had already decided to hate on principle. Her name was Situ Yan, Dragon Group Captain, Yellow Team, late Dark Force, face like a locked door. The file she carried had my name on it and the word massacre underneath it. She told me, very politely, that I was a prime suspect in the erasure of the Lin Jinghai branch. and that I was welcome to accompany her voluntarily or otherwise. I was in the mood to be provocative. I asked for evidence. One of her juniors, an early Dark Force boy with more uniform than sense, swung at me for the insult. Ah Long put him into a wall before the fist was halfway finished. Her team drew firearms. My bodyguards drew theirs. Somewhere behind me, in a second doorway, Little Tiger, late Dark Force himself, released enough pressure into the hall to make Situ Yan's hand stop moving. She looked at Ah Long. She looked at the doorway she could not see behind her. She calculated the shape of a mistake and chose, correctly, to walk back across it. A deputy commissioner named Zhao Kai arrived to smooth the scene, and my father called 30 seconds later and told me to cooperate. I chose to cooperate. I was curious how the inside of their station smelled. I kissed her in the interrogation room, not the answer she was expecting to her first question. She tried to arrest me for the gesture, and I broke the handcuffs without standing up, pinned her at the wrist, kissed her again, while a junior at the wrong door saw exactly enough. I gave her my phone, 4 videos on it. The kidnapping, the drugging, the Lin Villa, the welded accelerator. Real footage, every frame verifiable. The face in them, however, would not match any man in Jinghai. A ghost named Ye Tian, said the metadata. A mysterious donor, I said out loud, giving her both the evidence and the deniability I needed her to carry out of the building. She locked me in a cell for 24 hours because I had kissed her. Fair. I filled those hours the way a man fills hours. I borrowed a phone from a bored guard and told the Dragon Group's off-duty rotation I was Situ Yan's secret boyfriend. 3 of her subordinates believed me hard enough to open a bottle. They were toasting our engagement at 5 in the afternoon when she walked back through the door. She punished the subordinates with extra laps. She took her revenge on me in the only way left to her professional pride. She drew a turtle on my forehead with a permanent marker. She wrote, "I am an ugly monster," across my cheek in a calligraphy she had learned from her grandfather. She painted my hands a color I would not be able to scrub off for a week. She took a photograph for a file she told me she would keep forever and walked me out the front door of the station with my own escort holding the door so the entire motor pool could clap. I walked across the parking lot with a turtle between my eyes and the word monster on my cheek and a coat thrown over a shirt that had seen better mornings, and all along in the car with a mouth he was trying very hard to keep straight. I let him laugh once. I got in. I told him I would remember. What Situ Yan did not know, and what her colleagues would tell her within the hour, was that the Dragon Group had just opened a file on Ye Tian of the Wild Wolf Mercenary Group. Arrest warrant. National priority. My face was on a camera's memory card somewhere in her desk. His face was on an all-points bulletin by sundown. I had lost the scene. I had closed the investigation. Back at the villa, Ah Long and Little Tiger knelt on the floor of my study. I gave each of them a breakthrough pill. I watched them break. By night, both were mid-stage transformation realm, and my field force was now 2 transformation realm killers. One mind-erased peak Dark Force butler who had broken through alongside them on his own pill, and Old Ghost at mid-stage transformation in a black robe that still smelled faintly of theater smoke. Shadow One's channels reported the Lin family had dispatched 2 secret guards to Jinghai, Yiqi and Yiba, B Group, low transformation realm, quietly ordered to verify whether Ye Tian had killed Lin Huayang. I told Ah Long to leak Ye Tian's new address to them, slowly, through 3 intermediaries, the way a careful man spills tea. Ye Tian could run. Ye Tian could bleed. Ye Tian could not be in reinforcements when I needed him somewhere else. While Ye Tian was being converted into a man with 2 great families and 1 government agency chasing him, he did something the book had never let him do. He walked up to Jinghai University at closing time, stood at the gate, and opened his mouth to tell a girl in a grease-stained apron that he was her brother. He was still wounded. He was still hunted. He looked at her face for a long time. He did not say it. He turned around and walked away. She went home to a foster father who was drunk before the sun went down, demanded her mother's medicine money for his gamblers, and left again without it when she put the money on the table and called his bluff. She fed her mother a dose and sat beside the bed and did not cry, because crying was a thing she had used up in the cafeteria weeks ago. I was not in the room with her. I was in my cultivation space, burning 30 days of a 50-day session the improved mental strength had just unlocked. I came out mid-stage transformation realm, top-grade mortal body, 6th layer of the 9-strength fist, half-learned, divine sense reaching several meters past my skin. The system's plot lottery was already spinning. It stopped on an image I recognized from the book. Ye Tian's sworn brother, 2 mid-stage transformation realm escorts, a small lacquered box on a slow truck. Inside the box, a fruit with a 100-year stem still weeping sap. vermilion, destined for Ye Tian's mouth. I called Ah Long in and told him to start pulling maps. The pages the book had written for Ye Tian were about to lose another one. By dawn, I had a slow truck, a 2-day window, and a man on the expressway counting plates. Across the city, Ye Tian walked back to Jinghai University in sunglasses and a cheap jacket. He watched his sister come out of her last class, and this time, he did not turn around. He caught her at the plaza and told her, out loud, that he was her brother. He put an old photo in her hand. He named a red mole on her left side no stranger could have known about. She went white, called him a liar twice, and ran. He made it 10 steps before the dragon group was on his back, and another 10 before my men felt him. Shadow 1's network had been feeding the route for 2 days. Yichi and Yiba stepped out of a side alley the way a door steps out of a wall. B group, transformation realm, tired of waiting. I watched the next part on Shadow 1's channel with a glass of water. Yiba played him a video old Ghost had cut 3 nights ago. A man in a cheap mask with Ye Tian's build dragging Ye Qingyan into a van. Ye Tian saw his sister, alive, tied, in the hands of a man who wore his own face. He tried to point them at me. They did not listen. He tried to leave. Yichi's aura settled on him like a wet coat. The fury of rage was a technique the book had given him for exactly this moment. It dragged peak internal strength into mid-transformation and burned meridians to do it. He hit Yiba in the chest, stopped a strike with his own body, and left the alley with blood in his mouth. Yiba was on the ground. Yichi chased. Old Ghost and I were already in a car. We pulled up to the alley mouth while Yiba was still breathing. I let him finish working out that the Lin Patriarch's suspicion had been right. The Jinghai massacre was Jiang. Then I closed the distance. The divine control technique did not need a speech. I put a hand on the back of his neck. His eyes emptied the way a room empties when someone switches the last light off. The system recorded a new name, Shadow 2. I left Old Ghost to move him. The next piece was mine. The chase ran half an hour into the slopes north of the city. Ye Tian was fast on the way up and slow on the way down as the technique ate through him. When the trees opened onto a stone cliff, 100 meters above a dark pool, Ye Tian stopped running. He looked at the water. He looked at Yichi. He chose the water. A clean dive off the edge, arms out, the way a man chooses a long shot over a short certainty. The book had given Ye Tian this exact escape, I said. Yichi turned and saw us. He came at me like a man with nothing left to spend. I stopped Shadow 1 from stepping forward. I wanted to feel what he could do. He hit me in the chest full power. My mid-grade mortal body registered the contact the way a door registers a knock. Something in his wrist cracked on impact. Then it was my turn. One exchange. I laid my hand on the back of a second neck that afternoon and named what came out of it, Shadow 3. I had Shadow 1 call a helicopter. The scouts went down on rope, reported a pool, no body. Then the channel filled with shouting and then with nothing. I went down on a second rope. What I found was blood in the water, 8 men gone, and a head the size of a car rising out of the pool. Peak dark force, the system said. A python that had been down there long enough to learn what metal tasted like. It took another of my men before I put a 9-strength fist into its jaw and drove it back under. I let it go. A thing that big was worth more alive for the moment. Ah Long found the cave. 3 meters in, a pool. Milky white liquid that glowed in a way water does not. Floating face down near the rim. Ye Tian, breathing, barely. Earth spirit. Milk, the system said. Top-grade natural treasure. Repairs. Cleanses. Opens. The book had given this to Ye Tian at this exact moment in this exact cave. The book was wrong about who walked in first. Ah Long asked why we were not finishing him. A dead protagonist ends the farm. A protagonist who survives a cliff and wakes up healed in a pool of milk he did not know about learns to trust his own luck. A man who trusts his own luck walks into the next trap, holding the door open for me. We siphoned the pool to a finger's depth. Enough for a severely injured man to survive. Not enough for a breakthrough. I miscalculated by 1 inch. Protagonist luck did the rest. On the way out, I dealt with the python the way a hunter deals with a beast that has already cost him men, a lure, a net, 3 precise strikes. By the time the water settled, the system logged the kill, a core, and a gall I would put to use later. I told Ah Long to sweep the cave clean. If Ye Tian wanted to walk out believing he had been chosen, I was not going to argue. The system paid. 4,000 villain points. Late transformation realm. By the time the milk in the wooden tub ran to clear glass. Shadow 3, wearing Yichi's face, reported to the Sichuan Lin Patriarch by encrypted line that night. He gave them a name for the Jinghai massacre, not Jiang, Wang. The Wang family had, in the book, betrayed the other 3 at the spiritual land. I was only moving the date forward. The Patriarch believed him and ordered an attack. One more family walking into my calendar on its own feet. 2 days later, Ye Qingyan applied for a housekeeper position, then a waitress position, then a tutoring position. Over 6 days, She applied for every job a young woman with a brain and a bedridden mother could apply for. Every one of them declined her. By the 5th day, she stopped being surprised by it. On the 7th day, an agency called her with an offer: live-in housekeeper, 50,000 yen a month. She did not ask. She asked for the address. The address was mine. She stood on my doorstep in her grease-stained apron and her pride and her mother's overdue hospital bill and rang the bell. Ah Long called her Miss Ye and pointed upstairs. She came into the study and found me at the desk. She tore the contract. I produced the copies, a box of them, from the drawer. I offered an advance, 3 months' salary, on a card to the hospital. She looked at the card for a long time. She took it. At the door, she told me flatly that she would never be my woman. I told her she was free to walk. She did not walk. Her mother's oxygen had a price. The smallest ugly option, a second time. The next week cooked badly. She drew my bath and nearly boiled her own hand because she had never drawn a bath for a man who could have boiled his own tub. Her dinners came out black and salty. I enrolled her in classes. She told herself, in front of the stove, that she would earn the 50,000. Across the campus, Su Yi told Chu Mengyao he loved her. She had already learned what silence from my direction cost and told him no without looking him in the eye. He vowed to grow strong enough to end me. He did not know every ladder to strength he would reach for had already been left leaning at his feet by my people. 2 days after Ye Qingyan moved in, a slow truck crossed the Jinghai city line with 4 men and a small lacquered safe. Ye Tian met them at the airport. 3 late-stage transformation, 1 peak. The peak man handed him the safe and a note from his sworn brother at Wuji Palace. Inside, a fruit with a 100-year stem and a skin that wept sap like a cut lip. The note said it could push him 2 small realms. He took it home, opened it, and smiled for the first time in a fortnight. His phone rang. The video was short. His sister, bound against a wall. Shadow 3 in front of her, wearing the costume now, calm and patient. 8 o'clock. The vermilion fruit for the girl. Ye Tian watched the video twice. He asked himself the question a protagonist of Destiny has never had to ask before. It took him about 3 seconds to answer. He cooked a fake fruit overnight, an ordinary spiritual fruit, skinned and polished with a little false cinnabar. He would bring 3 subordinates to the trade. The 4th, the peak guardian, would stay at the residence with the real fruit. He did not understand he had just split his own defense. I was already watching both halves. At 8 o'clock, he arrived on the roof of an abandoned tower with 3 cultivators and a lacquered box. Shadow 3 was waiting, newly at peak transformation, on a pill I had given him. Ye Tian's peak subordinate warned him. He pushed through the warning and demanded to see his sister. Shadow 3 turned on a screen, a bound figure in the half-dark that was not quite her. Ye Tian threw the box. Shadow 3 cracked the fruit on the roof. The system confirmed the fake inside a second. At the same second, across the city, Shadow 2 was coming through the bedroom wall. The guardian inside had a technique I had not counted on. Yin Wind Palm, yellow rank elementary, a skill most first-rate powers did not own. He hit Shadow 2 with it. Shadow 2 took it on reinforced meridians, coughed, and came forward. The recoil corroded the man's own strike through him. Shadow 2 closed, hit him twice, put him on the floor, finished. The real fruit rode out under Shadow 2's coat. The apartment burned behind him. Back on the tower, Shadow 3 punched Ye Tian across the roof and chased him down the fire stairs. The peak man his sworn brother had sent felt my aura before he saw me. He told his 2 surviving brothers to cover Ye Tian's retreat and turned to face the stairs. When I crossed the roofline, he saw a man in a Lin courier's jacket. I gave him the part he needed to hear. I was Lin. His Wuji Palace did not frighten me. Stand down or be broken where he stood. He asked for a way out. I told him his employer had already paid for the fruit and was about to pay for him. He reached into his coat and took out a pill I had seen on a system listing once. The Berserker pill pushed a peak transformation man to Earthrealm for a handful of minutes and destroyed everything he was afterward. Severed meridians, ruined lifespan, no cultivation ever again. He swallowed it because his young master's investment was larger than his own future. He came at me in a red-eyed blur. A late-stage transformation body would not have survived. I had not come to this rooftop as a late-stage transformation body. I took the first strike on my forearm. Bone ached, skin held. He hit me for 90 seconds with everything the pill had bought him. None of it cut, none of it broke. By the 30th blow, the drug was peeling off him at the edges. I ended the exchange in 1 strike. The divine elephant had taught my body to put force into a single inch, and a single inch was all the rooftop required. I took the real fruit out of his coat and stepped over him the way you step over a dropped umbrella. I walked down in Lin colors and out a side door before Ye Tian had finished running. 10 blocks east, Shadow 3 had run Ye Tian and his 2 remaining protectors into a rocky slope. The protectors had bought their young master 40 seconds and spent 15. Ye Tian was in a dead end with a wall at his back. Shadow 3 asked him, without moving, whether the weak deserved to be bullied. He raised a hand for the capture blow I had ordered him to deliver. He stopped it halfway down and called into the shadows for the Watcher to show himself. From the darkness, a black-robed man in a blank lacquered half-mask stepped onto the slope. His voice was low and hoarse and paternal underneath the theater of it. He named himself Ghostmaster of the Rakshasa Order. He told Shadow 3 to leave the boy or be left on the stones. Shadow 3 attacked. Old Ghost caught the first strike on his sleeve and returned 2 that put Shadow 3 back 3 steps. Both had rehearsed the rhythm the night before. Shadow 3 spat, cursed, and ran off down the slope like a man who had lost a wager. Ye Tian, bleeding on his knees, looked up at the man he believed had saved his life. Old Ghost said the Rakshasa Order rewarded its own. He took a small porcelain bottle from his sleeve and held it out. A breakthrough pill. Ye Tian's hand shook. He swallowed it. He broke through, early transformation to mid, in the dirt, under the hands of the man who had scripted every step that brought him there. Old Ghost gave him an encrypted phone, said the first mission would come in a day or 2, and walked into the tree line without turning around. Ye Tian staggered home to an apartment burning to its steel beams, and a safe, cracked and empty. He did not question, for a single second, the convenience of the rescue. Protagonist luck had trained him, over a cliff and a pool of milk and a mysterious master, to trust a rescue. He added the Lin family to a list. He added me to a list. He did not add the Ghostmaster to anything at all. The system paid like a slot machine tripping on its last barrel. 14,000 villain points. 200 days of lifespan restored. A flat line at the top of the ledger. The plot had been altered beyond its original rails. The protagonist of Destiny was now, formally, a member of the same fake assassin guild the jealous childhood friend had joined 2 phases earlier. I held both Chosen One archetypes on a single string. I went into my cultivation space with the vermilion fruit and locked the bedroom door. The fruit came apart on my tongue the way a breath comes apart in cold air. I felt the stem dissolve in my throat and the sap unroll down meridians. The mid-grade mortal body had already widened. A late-stage transformation cultivator became, in the time a man takes to swallow, a peak transformation realm 1. I came out and sat at the desk and listened to the house breathe. Down the hall, Ye Qingyan was burning a second batch of rice. Ah Long was watching a football game he did not follow. Old Ghost was already drafting Ye Tian's first Rakshasa mission. The protagonist of Destiny had my pill in his stomach and my phone in his pocket. He would take his orders from me now. He would never know who I was, anyway. The map was on fire by the time I finished breakfast. I spent my 14,000 villain points on the storyline lottery the morning after the vermilion fruit. The wheel paid me an intermediate breakthrough pill and a star luo fruit. Neither was the mysterious yin stone I had been saving for. I put both in the cultivation space and closed the panel. Across the city, Su Yi was making his own contribution to the week. His latest scripted Rakshasa mission had left him with a concussion and a kidney laceration. He walked into a Jinghai hospital under a fake name and stole 2 bags of O negative from a blood bank. A nurse noticed. Security came. Old Ghost, in Ghostmaster costume, appeared in the alley behind the emergency exit just in time, gathered up a grateful boy with blood on his mouth, and walked him back into the shadow of the Rakshasa Order. Another ladder, another hand on the rung. Su Yi did not even ask how the Ghostmaster had known. I was eating toast when Ah Long put a file on the table. A man named Hong Quan had walked through the main gate of the Sichuan Lin family's Jinghai compound just after midnight and cut down every Earthrealm guard inside it like a man mowing tall grass. I had not arranged that. Hong Quan was mid-stage Heavenly Realm, sent by the Hong family's young master to collect a sacred sight key the Lin family was sitting on. He had opened the compound the way a hot knife opens butter. The Sichuan Lin patriarch, Lin Muyun, had been dragged out of his 3-year seclusion to find his Jinghai outposts in pieces and an assassin in his own courtyard. He threatened to swallow a bloodthirsty pill and die in Hong Quan's lap. The dragon group arrived before he had to. 2 mid-stage Heavenly Realm officers in black uniforms. Hong Quan smiled a small warning from his young master and walked out the way a landlord walks out of a tenant's apartment. Lin Muyun was still standing in his own courtyard at dawn with his blood on his own stones. That was the real event, the one I had not created. Everything I built that morning was built on top of it. Shadow 1 had been inside the Lin family as their butler for the better part of 2 phases now. Shadow 3 still wore Yi Chi's face and still had clean credentials on the Lin B Group's secret guard channel. By 9 in the morning, my 2 quietest men had put a file on the Lin Patriarch's desk with the attack's intelligence trail routed through an old Wang courier, a second with the Zhou family's name on the logistics, and a third with 2 smaller regional factions as enablers. Hong Quan had come through the Lin family's front door. I handed Lin Muyun 4 more doors to kick down. The patriarch had been in seclusion for 3 years. He had been out of seclusion for 6 hours. His youngest grandson was bleeding in a courtyard, and his second son was screaming about a funeral. He read my files the way a man reads a death notice. He did not ask for forensic verification. He ordered retaliation before the blood on his own robe had dried. Within 30 hours, the Lin family had struck 4 great houses across 3 provinces. The Wang family, the Zhou family, 2 smaller regional factions I had no use for. At the same time, Ye Tian's sworn brother at Wuji Palace was finishing his own arithmetic. A peak transformation guardian dead on a rooftop. 3 late-stage subordinates dead. A century-old vermilion fruit stolen. Wuji Palace did not know the thief had been me in a Lin courier's jacket. They only knew the corpses had been Lin marked. Within 48 hours, they destroyed the Lin family's overseas shipping line and killed a Lin elder in Hong Kong. 4 great powers moving on one family. None of them knew I was conducting the orchestra. A patriarch who has just watched his grandson die does not audit his sources. I had bet on that, and he had paid me on time. The first real return came from the Wang family. I had sent Shadow 3 into the Wang compound that same night, wearing a courier's face, carrying a knife with a light Hua Jin poison, not to kill Wang Rulin, to see what came out of the dark when he tried. What came out of the dark was a man named Tianquan. The Wang family, in my head, had been a mid-tier clan with a mid-tier patriarch. That was the arithmetic the book had handed me. The book had been wrong. When the Lin family's 8 peak transformation cultivators broke down the Wang gate, Wang Rulin pressed a jade pendant once, and an old gardener stood up from a row of chrysanthemums and walked into the courtyard with a pistol. Tianquan was late Earth Realm. He had been living in the Wang household as a gardener for 40 years. He did not like to get cultivator blood on his clothes. A pistol was, in his considered opinion, tidier than a sword. He put 8 Lin cultivators down in under 4 minutes, extracted the truth from the last one that the Lin family had attacked on falsified evidence, and made sure that last one would never repeat the confession. He did not like witnesses either. Shadow 3 withdrew on the smoke bomb I had given him for exactly this contingency. His job had not been the kill. His job had been the probe. Tianquan was told the Lin family had attacked 4 great houses in a single night. He called them suicidal and went back to his chrysanthemums. 5 top-tier forces began to move toward a single point on the map. 15 Heavenly Realm experts, by Shadow 1's count, all vectoring to the Sichuan Lin ancestral home. The Tian family from the north, the Zhou family from Sichuan province itself, the Hong Young master behind Hong Quan's second visit, Wuji Palace's second strike team, the Dragon Group's heavy response unit. I ate dinner Ye Qingyan had cooked. She had not burned it this time. I told Ah Long to prepare a fast truck, a spare truck, and a treasury manifest. I was going to loot the Lin family's ancestral home while 15 Heavenly Realm experts killed each other in its courtyard. Dawn, the Sichuan Lin ancestral home. 3 layers of inner courtyards, a main hall older than the Qing, a training ground deep enough to drop a helicopter into. The Tian family arrived first, Tian Wu in front, 4 Heavenly Realm experts behind him, a cordon of Earth Realm fighters fanning out along the walls. They stood at the gate and demanded the sacred site key by noon. The Zhou family arrived before the demand could be answered. Their approach was softer. They offered Lin Muyun protection in exchange for the same key. 2 patriarchs under one roof, they said. Survive where one alone would not. Lin Muyun, still gray around the eyes from his first wound, took their offer under consideration and sent word back that he would answer in an hour. He did not intend to answer at all. While the Tian and Zhou families stood in his first courtyard staring at each other, Lin Muyun ordered the Lin family's direct descendants evacuated through a secret tunnel I had known about since Shadow 1's 3rd week. Children, grandchildren, the 2nd and 3rd sons, 2 pregnant wives, a family doctor, 32 Lin bodies moving at a crouch through a 2-kilometer tunnel to an overseas extraction point. Hong Quan had been sent back by his young master to finish the work he had started. He ambushed the tunnel at its midpoint. The second son did not have time to draw a weapon. The third son did not have time to call out. Hong Quan collapsed the midsection with a palm strike and sealed the rest of the family under the earth before they could turn back. He stood on the collapse and waited for the patriarch to come and look at what he had done. I am going to tell you what happened next, the way the courtyard saw it, not the way Hong Quan felt it. YouTube does not need me to describe the anatomy. Lin Muyun walked up the tunnel stairs, holding the embroidered hem of a coat that had belonged to a son who would not be coming back up the stairs after him. He did not speak. He did not shout. He walked past Hong Quan into the main courtyard and ordered his Dark Guard Group A, 10 peak bodyguards, men who had served him since before his sons were born, to stand in a circle. The blood god technique was a forbidden art the Lin family had held for 11 generations and never used once. The 10 bodyguards stood in their circle. None of them moved. None of them asked. One of them was 48 and had a grandson. One of them was 63 and had trained the patriarch's second son from age 6. They waited. The blood god drew their life into him. I am going to skip what 10 grown men look like when a forbidden technique consumes them at the same time. The courtyard saw it. The Tian family saw it. The Zhou family saw it. Tianwu, who had sacrificed subordinates before, took a step back. When it was finished, Lin Muyun stood at the center of the circle, with his skin a few shades brighter than it had been. His cultivation was no longer mid-stage heavenly realm. It was late heavenly realm for the next 3 hours, and then it was death. He turned on Hong Quan. I am not going to describe what came next. The courtyard saw it. The Tian family saw it. The Zhou family saw it. By the time Lin Muyun was finished, Hong Quan was no longer a man 2 great families would recognize. He was a message, displayed at the center of the courtyard, from a father whose children had been taken from him under the earth. Tianwu, who had sacrificed subordinates before, took 2 steps back and did not know he had moved. The Tian family stopped moving. The Zhou family stopped moving. Somewhere beyond the outer wall, a Hong young master's phone rang and was not answered. I was on the treasury roof. Shadow 3 was beside me. We decided quietly that it was time to leave. The treasury had 3 locked doors. We had opened none of them through the front. We had come in through a back kitchen, a coal cellar, and a passage used for 40 years to move the patriarch's seasonal robes. The vault's master key had a twin only the head butler carried. Shadow 1 had been the head butler for 61 days. We emptied it. Earthrealm spiritual medicines in jade boxes, stacked 4 deep. Rare ore blanks from mines nobody still owned. Bodhi-adjacent cultivation resources, wrapped in yellow silk. Lifespan-extending elixirs in small black ceramic jars, sealed by thumb. 3 heavenly realm manuals in a lacquered case, 2 generations unopened. 7 flasks of spiritual wine. A scroll Shadow 1, identified on site as the complete blood god technique, annotated. I put the scroll into my own coat. It did not belong in a truck. We were inside the treasury for 19 minutes. The great families in the main courtyard were killing each other over a key to a location whose manifest I was stealing out the back. By the time the Tian and Zhou families noticed the treasury doors were standing open, we were 2 streets away in a laundry van. We tried to leave Jinghai. The district had been sealed. The Dragon Group had run a military cordon around the entire siege zone while we were in the treasury. Tanks at the crossroads, helicopters overhead, Inspector Xiaoshan's heavy response unit in body armor along the outer perimeter, and at the cordon gate we had to cross to leave. Standing beside a black government sedan with her arms folded was Situ Yan. She recognized me before the truck stopped rolling. She was on me inside 2 seconds. Cuffs, a pistol, a row of Dragon Group juniors with their hands on their weapons. She mocked me for being caught inside another massacre. I let her mock. I offered a trade. Full Lin family intelligence on the sacred site, the pool that enhanced Heavenly Realm cultivators, the access points, the 3-year opening window, the butler's preparation list, in exchange for my release at the cordon. Behind her, standing in the shadow of her sedan's open door, an older man I had not seen before tilted his head a fraction of an inch. Situ Yan did not look at him. She did not have to. She accepted the trade. I had her sign a receipt. The Dragon Group values paperwork. Then I challenged her to a fight. I owed her a police station floor with my own clothes on it and turtles on my own skin. I owed her a file on my chest marked massacre and a deputy commissioner's phone call to my father. I owed her a humiliation with witnesses. She accepted. She was, to her credit, a woman who did not refuse a fight offered in front of her own juniors. I took 30 seconds, 1/9 strength fist, at a quarter its force, to the center of her guard. She was mid-heavenly realm, and her chi density was higher than mine. Her frame was not. My mid-grade mortal body absorbed her response strike the way a wall absorbs a thrown pebble. I caught her wrist on the rebound, folded her, and laid her across the hood of her own sedan. Then, I produced a permanent marker. Across her forehead, I wrote in large, even letters, "I am an ugly monster." On her left cheek, I drew a turtle. On her right cheek, I drew a second turtle. Under her chin, I added, in smaller, careful letters, "Property of the MC." I gave the cat back to Ah Long. I set her on the hood of her sedan, with her hands folded in her lap. I adjusted her hair. I told her juniors that she was resting. The math was kept. Her work on my skin the last time we met, mine on hers this time. A clean balance, on a cordon gate, in front of the Dragon Group's own cameras. I walked back to the truck. The older man in the shadow of the sedan did not move. He watched me walk past him with the same expression a man watches a weather system with. His name, I learned later, was Xiao. Uncle Xiao, a Dragon Group late Heavenly Realm officer Situ Yan, worked under without knowing what he actually was. He had watched me defeat his subordinate in 30 seconds. He had watched my body absorb a mid-Heavenly Realm strike and register it as a knock on a door. He had filed, in a quiet corner of his mind, a note I would not learn the contents of for some time. Possibly Zhuan body, the note said. Stronger than my own. Do not report yet. He let me go. Behind the cordon, the siege finished. Lin Muyun's 3 hours began at the center of the main courtyard, with Hong Quan's body on the stones. The blood god does not leave the mind standing. By the second hour, there was nothing in the courtyard that answered to the name Lin Muyun. There was only a father-shaped storm. He killed a Tian Heavenly Realm elder in one exchange. He killed a second in 2. The Zhou family elder tried a life-for-life technique, a cultivator's last resort meant to end both men at once. Lin Muyun accepted the exchange and walked out of it alive on the strength of the technique still consuming him. The Zhou family ran. The courtyard had become something nobody on either side had a manual for. Tianwu sacrificed his own subordinates as walls to reach the outer perimeter. He stepped over 2 apprentices and 1 captain of his own to cross the last 50 meters. Outside the compound, the Dragon Group's heavy response unit picked him up without a struggle. He had nothing left to sacrifice. Lin Muyun came out of the courtyard with his mind gone, onto a street cleared of civilians 4 hours earlier. Inspector Xiaoshan of the Jinghai Dragon Group was waiting at the head of it. Heavenly Realm, lucid, unhurried. 2 exchanges. Lin Muyun went down on the asphalt, and the blood god went quiet with him. The Sichuan Lin family was extinct by sundown. Lin Muyun, Lin Bai, long since buried. Lin Huayang, buried with him. The second son, the third son, the grandchildren, the pregnant wives, every secondary branch, every outpost. 32 in the tunnel, 10 in the courtyard, every Heavenly Realm defender in the siege. The Dragon Group walked into the ancestral home at dusk and discovered the treasury doors standing open and the treasury empty. No forced entry, no bodies, no fingerprints. The elders swore there had been an inventory the night before. The butler was missing. No one remembered the butler's name. Tianwu was in a Dragon Group cell. The Hong Young Master was recalling his troops. Wuji Palace had withdrawn to grieve a guardian and a fruit. The Zhou family had withdrawn to regroup. 5 top-tier forces had arrived at the compound, expecting to leave with a sacred site key. Not one of them had it. The key, according to Shadow One's butler files, had been welded into the inside of the scroll case, holding the complete blood god technique. I had the case in my coat pocket. Late that night, I sat in my study with the inventory across the desk. Shadow One identified a ceramic jar the size of my thumb as a lifespan elixir a Heavenly Realm cultivator would kill a province for. Old Ghost drafted Ye Tian's next scripted Rakshasa mission. Ye Qingyan was in the kitchen, burning something that smelled, for the first time, deliberately. The phase closed the way a vault closes. Slow, heavy, final. 5 great families had converged on the Lin ancestral home over a key. The Lin family was extinct. Lin Muyun had become the saddest character in the story by ending his son's killer in front of 2 great families and dying 3 hours later. Situ Yan was on the hood of her own sedan with a turtle on each cheek. Uncle Xiao was writing a note he would not send. The Zhou family had been named for the first time. I was peak transformation realm, mid-grade mortal body, with a treasury of Earth realm resources, banked for the breakthrough I had already scheduled. I had traded sacred site intel the Dragon Group would chase for years. I had a complete blood god technique in my pocket I would eventually hand to Su Yi through an intermediary he would never identify. Ye Tian was still out there, still injured, still carrying an encrypted phone with my number at the other end of it. The ledger was humming. Anyway, the treasury was still humming on the desk when the call came. I was in the cultivation space the week after the Lin extinction, burning an intermediate breakthrough pill and half a bottle of something the Lin elders had been saving for their own patriarch. When I stepped out, my status panel read Peak Earth Realm, Low-Grade Profound Body, 476 days left on the lifespan clock. The storyline lottery paid out on the plot, changes I had banked, a silver movement technique called Shadow Step that could throw 10 phantoms at perfection, a gold strike art called Shadow Strike with 6 netherworld flying knives that combined into a low-grade spiritual weapon, a legendary arcane art called Rejuvenating Withered Trees, which the system described as equivalent to the cultivation space itself. I closed the panel and ate toast. Across the city, a local rich boy named Chao Yang was closing the other side of the week for me. Cao Yang was a middle-tier Jinghai predator. His father ran a construction-adjacent business empire. He ran bars and gambling dens, and the kind of private rooms where a young woman's night ended in a different place than where it had started. He had cultivated Ye Qingyan's adoptive brother, Ya Ji, for the better part of 2 months, letting him lose hundreds of thousands of yuan at a table he was never going to walk away from, letting the tab compound, letting the boy feel the floor give. Yeji sold his sister for 100,000 wen. That was the price. 100,000 for one sister, plus the forgiveness of everything he had lost. The trap ran exactly the way Cao Yang had drawn it. Yeja called Ye Qingyan, crying into the phone about a debt and a man with a knife. An unfamiliar voice took the phone and gave her an address and 30 minutes. She went. She walked into a smoke-filled gambling den and found her brother held by Chao Yang's men, and she offered 20,000 won and a payment plan, and Chao Yang offered her a shorter deal. 5 glasses of Beiju in exchange for her brother. She did not drink. She drank 5 glasses in a row to keep his fingers on his hand. The wine had been dosed with a potent aphrodisiac. She collapsed on a sofa in a private room. Ye Zhu stood in the hallway and did not turn around. A shadow guard I had posted on Ye Qingyan since the week she moved into the villa walked through the door. I had not put him there for this specific night. I had put him there because she was a profound yin sacred body asset and a permanent target for every predator in the city, and because I had been in and out of the cultivation space, and because a standing guard is the kind of precaution a reader remembers to make when he has read the book. He was late transformation. Cao Yang's thugs lasted seconds. The bar's hired martial arts expert, Niu Bo, was late dark force and cost the Tao family tens of millions of yuan a year to keep on retainer. He did not last long enough to regret the contract. The shadow guard closed a hand around Chao Yang's throat, decided against it, and threw him into a wall instead. I wanted Chao Yang alive. A living witness was more useful than a dead one. He carried Ye Qingyan out. Yeja realized, standing in the hallway, that the collusion was about to become unignorable. The shadow guard noted the hallway and kept walking. I neutralized the aphrodisiac in her blood with internal energy before she woke up. She woke up in my arms in a corridor she did not recognize, disoriented, and saw her brother hanging by the wrists in the same corridor with 2 of Ah Long's men standing behind him. The next morning, Ye Ji did what cowards do. He came back to the hospital with something tucked in his sleeve and tried to silence Cao Yang before Chao Yang could speak. The shadow guard was still on post. He put Ye Ji on the floor with 1 kick. Chao Yang, still very much alive, laughed the kind of laugh a trapped man laughs when he realizes the only leverage he has left is the accomplice next to him. He named Ye Ji in front of Ye Qingyan. He named the price. He named the hallway. Ye Zhu denied it. He said Chao Yang was framing him. He said he was her brother. I told Ye Qingyan, quietly, that there was one way to know the truth. I said it in the voice I use for her and for no one else. I had Ah Long take a blood sample from each of them. The lab turned the results around in an hour. She was not biologically related to Ye Ji. She was not biologically related to Ye Jun either. The family she had been breaking her back to support had not been her family at all. She looked at Ye Zhe one more time. Ye zhe, she said. Since we were children, when you lied, your ears turned red. Look at your ears. His ears were red. She did not scream. She did not cry. She stood there and asked him, in the smallest voice I had ever heard from her, what she had ever done to deserve it. I offered to kill him. I did not say kill. I said I could make him disappear. She shook her head. She said he was the only brother she had ever had, even if he was not her brother. She asked me to spare his life. I spared his life. I had Little Tiger cripple his Cultivation foundation in front of his sister, the way a martial artist closes a man's meridians and ends his ambitions in one technique without a drop of blood. The boy who walked out of that hospital that afternoon would never be a gambler again, because gambling required hands that worked the way they had worked yesterday, and his did not. He was put in a wheelchair and taken home. I had left instructions with the local precinct that calls about Ye zhe were not to be answered. Before nightfall, the Tao family was gone. The Jiang family owned banks and shipping interests and supplier relationships across Jinghai. The original Jiang Fan had never used these levers. I used all of them in a single afternoon. Suppliers canceled contracts. Bank notes were called in. Warehouses were seized by 3 different regulators within the same 2 hours. The father sat in his own living room watching a billion-yuan empire collapse inside a phone call and could not understand which family he had offended to earn it. By the time Along's men broke his bodyguard's arms and walked into the villa, he still did not know. Little Tiger told him that night, every adult Chao the Jiang family had ever done business with quietly stopped doing business in this city, or any city the Jiang family did business in. Banknotes called in had become banknotes recalled. Properties seized had become properties auctioned. By morning, the Cao family was a name on a docket and no longer a family on a map. Cao Yang himself was held in a hospital bed with a number for a name and a long file ahead of him. He cursed me through the door. I did not look at him. The work was finished without anyone needing to lift a shovel. I banked the system's payout later in a quiet room, alone. 20,000 villain points, 500 days of lifespan, reward text for making the chosen one's thread fall in love with the villain. I read it twice. I did not smile when it chimed, because earlier that night, Ye Qingyan had walked to my bedroom door. Her adoptive mother was dying of cancer in one hospital. Her adoptive brother was crippled in another. Her adoptive father was somewhere between a bottle and a debt collector. The only person she had left in the world was the man who owned the villa she was standing in, and she knew it, and he knew it. She stood in the doorway in the yellow hall light. She did not look at me for a long moment. I am not in love with you, she said. I know, I said. I do not know what I am, she said. I know, I said. Can I stay with you tonight? She said. I paused before the word. 1 heartbeat, 2. Long enough, if anyone had been listening, to hear the pause. Then I said yes. Short sentences then. A lamp turned off. A door closed. A woman who had carried a family on her back for 10 years, finally being carried for one night by the man who had just dismantled the people who taught her how to carry. She was not in love. I was not in love. Something landed anyway. In the morning, she was embarrassed. I teased her in a voice I had not heard myself use before, and she hid under the covers and threw a pillow at me. I brought her breakfast from a hotel and told her I had cooked it. She called me a liar. Then the phone rang. Her adoptive father, Ye Jun, screaming about Ye Zhu in a hospital bed and a surgery he could not afford, and her money. Where was her money? He did not ask what had happened. I drove her to the hospital myself. Ye Jun slapped her the moment she walked into the room. I caught the second swing in the air, and I slammed him into the wall hard enough to put a crack through the plaster behind his head. I told him in a corridor quiet voice that if he spoke her name again without my permission, I would have his mouth sewn shut. He stopped breathing. A doctor came to the door, saw me, recognized the Jiang family crest on my watch, and left. Something broke in her in that hospital room. She turned on Ye Jun and she said, out loud, what she had swallowed for 10 years. The part-time jobs, the night shifts, the studies she had sacrificed, the savings she had hidden from him so he could not gamble them, the medicine she had bought for the woman in the wheelchair at the door who was listening. She named the adoption. She named the paternity test. She asked, one more time, why they had taken her years if she had never been theirs to begin with. The elderly woman in the wheelchair slapped her. I started to move. She put a hand on my wrist. She looked at the wheelchair for a long moment, and then she turned, and she walked out of the room, and she did not look back. I walked out behind her. I made 2 phone calls in the parking lot. By sundown, the Foster family had been expelled from that hospital, and from every hospital in Jinghai. The Jiang family has board seats, philanthropic relationships, and supplier contracts with every major medical institution in the city. The ban was not a posted notice. It was a quiet word in a dozen administrative offices. No hospital wanted to cross us over a single cancer patient. That night, a debt collector named Brother Dao knocked on Ye Jun's door over gambling debts Yejun could not pay. He found 20,000 yuan hidden under the floorboards, the last of the mother's chemotherapy money, and took it as the first installment. When the sum turned out to be less than the interest Brother Dao had invented for the occasion, the rest of Yejun's possessions, his car, his savings, and his right to be left alone, were collected the same way. Brother Dao worked for Long. The fake debt, the phantom interest, the unlicensed paperwork, all of it was mine. I had promised her I would not kill them. I kept the promise. I did not promise anything else. Long filed the report at the villa. I listened. I did not smile. Then Old Ghost came in with a different report, and the temperature of the room changed. Ye Tian, he said, had reached early Earth realm on his latest scripted Rakshasa mission. That was not the news. The news was that a field team had tried to close on him near the handoff, and a man none of our people could describe had stepped out of nothing, put 3 of our men on their backs without moving his feet, and walked Ye Tian out of the scene. Old Ghost's words. Suspected heavenly realm expert. Possibly late, possibly higher. I asked him what the man looked like. Old Ghost said our people had not been close enough to see a face. I wrote the note in my internal file. Ye Tian, protected. I drew a question mark next to it. I did not have a name yet. I had thought I was 2 plot beats ahead of the board. I had just been reminded someone else might be 3. Ye Qingyan was in the kitchen that night. She was not burning anything. She was just standing there, looking out the window at a street she no longer had anyone to walk home to. I let her stand. Anyway, the question mark was still next to Ye Tian's name in my file when the phone on the desk buzzed. Ye Qingyan was at the kitchen window again, not burning anything, watching the road the way she had since the night before. I left her there. I had a different house to visit that week. Old Ghost came in at 7:15. Ye Tian was at early Earth realm under his new invisible protector. Su Yi was at late transformation under mine, and somewhere in the middle of his report, he mentioned the way a good subordinate mentions a thing he knows you will want, that Chu Mengyao had stolen a box of her family's top-grade spiritual herbs out of the Chu treasury and had them couriered to Su Yi. I let him finish. Then, I had them bring her to the villa. She walked in upright, clipped, polite. She apologized before she understood what for. I did not raise my voice. I had kept her alive through 5 phases because leverage costs less than a corpse. The herbs in Su Yi's hand were not leverage anymore. They were a resignation letter. I placed 2 fingers on the crown of her head and used the consciousness erasure art the system had once paid out for a shadow, the same technique that had made a butler into Shadow 1. When I took my fingers away, she was still standing in the room with her own face on. She was no longer Chu Mengyao. She was a shape that remembered how to be Chu Mengyao. I told her to go home. She nodded. She left. No scene. No set piece. A character I had kept on the board for 7 phases walked out in her own body and no longer in it. Short sentences then. It was cheaper that way. Long came in at 8 with an envelope from the Jiang family estate. My father wanted me home for dinner. I took Ye Qingyan with me. The Jiang estate was a long white complex of half Chinese, half Western courtyards I had not set foot in for most of the story. Uncle Fu met us at the door. He was the family steward, slow-spoken, warm, the kind of old man who called me young master before I had finished speaking. The book had filed him as Peak Hua Jin, a martial artist just on the edge of cultivation proper. The original Jiang Fan had believed the file. At peak Earth realm, with a low-grade profound body, I could now read a room with guests in it the way the original could not. Uncle Fu was late-stage heavenly realm. He had been late-stage heavenly realm for as long as the original Jiang Fan had been alive. He had been late-stage heavenly realm on the day of the hotel, on the day of the Lin siege, on every day. The book had told me the Jiang family was a moderately wealthy regional clan. The whole region had read my family's public face and filed away. I had filed the same wrong file. My own family had been a sleeping tiger the entire story, and I was the tiger's heir. "Welcome home, young master," Uncle Fu said, in a voice that carried exactly 1 sentence of amusement. "Welcome home," I said back. My mother threw her arms around my neck the moment I walked through the second courtyard door and pretended to cry about having been abandoned for half a month. I patted her shoulder and introduced Ye Qingyan as my future daughter-in-law. My mother scrutinized Ye Qingyan for 4 seconds, decided she approved, and took her away to buy her luxury goods worth 10 years of Yechingyan's cafeteria salary. That left me across the table from my father. Zhang Aotian poured tea. He was in his early 40s, broad-shouldered, a straight back, the kind of face that does not move very much. He watched me drink. He set the pot down. He released an aura that brushed the edge of Heavenly Realm across the table. I did not move. He withdrew the aura and said, "Not bad, kid." I said my strength was not bad either. He released the aura a second time, slightly heavier. I stepped through it without setting down my cup. He blinked once, which from my father was a long speech. He told me he had only used 1/10 of his strength. He asked me how I had cultivated a body stronger than his own. I told him, in a tone that he knew meant no, that a genius like me broke through the way other people ate toast. He threatened to beat me. He did not reach for me. He looked at the cup I was still holding, and something in his face recalibrated, the way a ledger recalibrates when a number that had been a rounding error turns out to be the sum. I set the cup down. I said, in the same easy tone, that in the next few weeks, I was planning to rob a top-tier great family, and I would like the loan of 10 of the Zhang clan's peak Earth Realm cultivators to do it. My father, for the first time in the story, needed a moment. He found his voice and asked which family. I said, the Long family in Qing province. He asked about the Heavenly Realms. I said one, in seclusion, probably breaking through. He asked if I was serious. I said I was serious about everything I said at a dinner table. He laughed, which was not a sound I was sure I had ever heard from him in the original book. Then, he said the Jiang family had always been my strongest support and would always be. He said it twice. The second time, it sounded like a man handing over keys. We stayed at the estate 2 more nights. In the second night, I spent the 20,000 villain points I had been sitting on since the Phase 6 close. A 10 pull off the intermediate wheel paid me 10 silver breakthrough pills and a gold vial of thunder-winged tiger blood, a peak Heavenly Realm beast with lightning in its marrow. 2 premium draws paid me the second tier of the Divine Demon, Devouring Heaven technique, legendary grade, which upgraded my cultivation potential to king rank and included a devouring secret art and 10 gold Bodhi leaves that multiplied cultivation speed 10-fold for a month. I carried 1 bucket of the tiger blood and 1 Bodhi leaf into my father's private cultivation room the next morning. I told him it was a gift. He made a joke about wanting 8 more buckets. I told him there were 5 buckets total, and 4 of them were mine. He stood in front of a tub of crackling violet blood and did not speak for a while. He asked me, quietly, where I had obtained it. I told him that a son brought gifts to his father. He did not ask again. He closed the door behind me. I went into my own cultivation space. I took 20 top-grade spiritual herbs out of the Zhang clan treasury, added 5 I had kept from the Lin treasury bank, and ran the rejuvenating withered trees art across all 25, aging them to 1,000-year supreme grade in a single pass. Into the bloodbath went the tiger's essence, the 25 upgraded herbs, 1 Bodhi leaf, and me. The pain was the worst I had written myself. The lightning in the blood tore the skin off me in strips, and the Bodhi leaf multiplied the tearing. I added healing herbs to the bath, the way a man adds salt to soup. Then I endured. 10 days inside the cultivation space, a blood cocoon, a cocoon that cracked, new skin underneath with a faint bronze sheen to it, mid-grade Zhuan body, a cultivator dense enough that even a mid-stage Heavenly Realm strike would bounce off like a knife off a cast iron pan. I would not have to outrun the Long family patriarch. I would have to decide whether I was bored yet. The tiger blood left me a second small gift I filed without naming. I walked into the Zhang clan's main training hall on the afternoon of the 3rd day and released my aura across the floor. 10 of the Zhang clan's peak Earth Realm cultivators, men who had spent my entire childhood referring to me behind my back as the good-for-nothing young master, went to their knees. The 2 Heavenly Realm elders standing behind them, early stage, women who had slapped my shoulder when I was a boy and called my father's choices indulgent, bent at the waist and did not straighten until I told them to. In a cultivation clan, there is no politics past the aura. There is only the aura and what comes after it. I withdrew the aura. I told them in a clan meeting voice that there would not be a next time for disrespect. I had Old Ghost hand each of the kneeling 10 a breakthrough pill. Within 2 hours, all 10 had ascended to half-step Heavenly Realm, which was a promotion their own arithmetic had told them they were 20 years away from. The Jiang family, in one afternoon, had acquired 10 half-step Heavenly Realm assets that had not existed the previous morning. I had restructured the succession without having the meeting. My father, in his study upstairs, felt the 10 breakthroughs through the floor and did not come down. I paid him 2 more Bodhi leaves for 20 top-grade herbs the next morning. He grumbled about being squeezed. He delivered. Then we went to Qing province. The Long family sat on a Xuanyin mine built into the side of a mountain, an ancient garden compound wrapped around the mouth of a cave. Inside the cave, a vein of ore that compressed Xuanyin qi into Xuanyin liquid, which hardened the body. The Long family's own cultivators drank the raw qi, the liquid they handed off every year, up the chain, to a reclusive clan from Buzhou Mountain called the Zhou family, whose vassals they had secretly been for generations. This was the first time the Long family's vassalage was going to be named out loud, and the Long family did not know it yet. While I flew south with 10 half-step Heavenly Realm clansmen and 2 early-stage Heavenly Realm elders on a chartered plane, Ye Tian, at Old Ghost's quiet direction, kidnapped Long Yun's son, Long Heng, and daughter, Long Ruoking, and demanded spiritual herbs and Xuanyin liquid for their return. 2-hour deadline, 8 o'clock, solo meeting. He sent Long Yun a video of his son tied up. Behind the curtain, Old Ghost and I walked through the script with a pot of tea between us. Ye Tian was attacking the Long family on my orders through a Rakshasa he believed real. Su Yi was being set up on a parallel thread to attack Ye Tian through the same Rakshasa. Every piece was on a Jiang Fan leash, and no piece had noticed. Long Yun, down in Qing province, faced his own elders' council. The council told him the Long family had accumulated those herbs over decades, and no man's daughter was worth the treasury. Long Yun reminded them he was the patriarch. Then he walked to a guest wing of the ancestral home, where a dissipated young man from a Zhou collateral branch was practicing a forbidden Zhou family art on a series of Long family servants who had not signed up for any of it and lied to him. Long Yun claimed the kidnappers had insulted the Zhou family. The young man, Zhou Ji, rose to his bait with pleasure. 2 Zhou heavenly realms were assigned to ambush the exchange site in Zhou Ji's shadow. At the exchange, Long Yun walked into an empty suburban building carrying a case of elixirs. A masked figure let out a bound woman with Long Roking's voice. Long Yun cut her free. She came at him with a blade and a poisoned needle she had been carrying for 10 years. His innate premonition sense saved him by a second. He struck her across the room. She tore off her lifelike mask. She was not Long Roking. She was a survivor whose family the Long clan had erased more than a decade before. The only remaining person on a list Long Yun had never bothered to read. She told him she had been waiting this long for one room with him in it. The fight lasted 30 seconds. She did not survive him. He did not come out of it without a wound. He came out of the building alive with his internal energy spent. Later, a subordinate told him the rescue team sent to pry Long Heng out of the warehouse had gone silent. Ye Tian's contribution? That. The avenging woman had not been my assignment. She had been his creative addition to a script I had written cleaner. I filed the escalation without objecting. The Long family compound was empty of heavenly realms. Long Yun was at the exchange. Zhou Ji and his 2 Zhou heavenlies were engaged, chasing Ye Tian's shadow. The patriarch Long Tianshou was still in his breakthrough seclusion. I walked in through the front gate. Zhang Li and Zhang Lin, the 2 clan elders my father had lent me, split their forces. Zhang Lin took half the 10 half-step heavenlies to empty the treasury vault. I took the other half down the cave with me. The gate guards were transformation realm and did not last long enough to see the knives. Netherworld flying knives, 6 of them. Low-grade spiritual weapon, invisible in flight, returning clean. Deeper in the mine, a man stepped out of a side passage. Mid-stage heavenly realm, robe, long sword. The casual arrogance of someone who had never been told no in a cave before. Zhou Cheng, collateral Zhou family, the overseer the Zhou main lineage had sent to sit on top of the Long family's vein. He swung his mid-grade mortal sword at my bare hand. It bounced off and nicked. Zhou Cheng spent the next 2 seconds looking at his blade, the way a man looks at a calendar that cannot be right. Then I used the divine demon devouring heaven technique on him for the first time, a palm to the back of his neck. His cultivation poured into mine the way water pours into a lower bowl. The conversion loss was substantial, I noted. Just under half of what I absorbed was usable. Injured chi, polluted fuel, field data. I banked the lesson. I went deeper. The system spent a small fee of mine and pointed me to the leftmost passage where the Xuanyin Qi was densest. I found a Zhou-built formation quietly compressing Xuanyin Qi into a pale blue pool of Xuanyin liquid. The Long family had been forbidden from drinking it. I took it all, every drop, into spatial storage. Behind a rock wall at the chamber's far end, I dug. My fist went 100 meters before a netherworld flying knife occurred to me as a drill. The knife took the rest. On the other side was a second chamber with a second pool, and, rising out of it, a 2-colored jade stone, half a person tall. Inside the stone, a palm-sized core that burned sky blue, the Zhuan Yin heart. The system read me the 3 effects. It enhanced the physical body, it enhanced cultivation, and it formed a special kind of divine consciousness on whomever bonded it. I took the stone, I took the heart, I left the Long family nothing. Ye Qingyan, in the villa back in Jinghai, was a profound yin sacred body, a seed planted in phase 2. I had been waiting for this chamber since I read about her in the first third of the book. The heart was the activation key. I put it in spatial storage beside the stone and walked out of the passage with both. At the mine entrance, the situation had worsened. Long Tianshu, the Long family patriarch, had broken his seclusion and arrived fast. He had just crossed from late early stage to mid-stage heavenly realm. His first palm strike put Zhang Li on the floor. Zhang Lin arrived from the treasury with both arms full of loot and joined the defense. Long Tianshou's second palm strike put both of them down, coughing blood, half a realm below him and outclassed. He raised his hand for a third strike. A netherworld flying knife stopped the strike before it could land, severed the technique at his wrist, and dropped him to one knee. I walked out of the mine with the Xuanyin heart still warm against my ribs. He asked me, bleeding onto the stone, who I was and whether I would fight him fair. I did not speak. I did not have a sentence a patriarch of a family I was about to erase deserved. I used the devouring technique on him directly. His full strength, mid-stage heavenly, poured into me. The conversion loss I had seen on Zhou Cheng did not repeat. Zhou Cheng had been injured before the test. Long Tianshu was at the peak of his strength, clean fuel in volume. The lesson from Beat 4 paid exactly what I had hoped. He went quiet at my feet. I gave one order. The compound is to be unmade. The Zhang clan's 10 half-step heavenly realms moved through the Long ancestral home, the way a flood moves through a building somebody had forgotten to evacuate. Within 2 hours, the compound was a name without a household. Records gone. Treasury gone. Authority gone. The math is not long when the patriarch and the heavenlies are not in it. Meanwhile, Ye Tian and Qin Han, in their abandoned steel plant, sent Long Yun a video of his son, Long Heng, tied to a chair in a warehouse with several Long branch members around him and Ye Tian's hand on a remote. Long Yun watched the video with the wound on his shoulder still bleeding and saw his son's face in the frame the way a man sees weather. Long Yun sat on a curb with his children in a warehouse that was about to burn and a clan that already had. I walked out of the compound with my men behind me, a stone in one arm and a heart in the other, a patriarch's dust on my sleeve. Uncle Fu was waiting for me at the plane. He looked at the sleeve. He did not say anything. The Jiang family, in one afternoon, had acquired a mid-grade Zhuan body cultivator at the head of its succession, 10 half-step heavenly realms as its new field force, and a great clan extinction to its name that the region would not be able to trace back. The Zhou family had lost Zhou Cheng and a collateral mid-heavenly without knowing who. The Long family no longer existed. Anyway, the Long compound behind me was a drawn line through a map. The Xuanyin heart in my storage was still warm. The Ye Tian and Qin Han warehouse video was on its way to Long Yun's cracked phone. I sat on the villa roof with a notebook open on my knee. I wrote the word shadow and underlined it. Then I waited for the shape to step out from behind it. It took 6 hours. Long Yun received the second video at 3 in the morning. His son tied to a chair, a wall of his own family behind him, a small red light at his feet. The frame cut to static a heartbeat later. The Long family, already extinct in Qing province, became extinct in the only frame Long Yun still cared about. He crushed the phone. Ye Tian's next message said, Blue Bay, alone, or the daughter dies on camera too. He came alone. Ye Tian and Qin Han fitted him with a restraint lock before he opened his mouth. Great Xia made those locks to strip Earthrealm cultivators down to ordinary men. Long Yun, peak Earthrealm, hours earlier, walked into a clearing as a father in a scorched suit. His daughter hung above a spike pit on a rope, thin enough to cut with a thought. Ye Tian played the dice game Long Yun had used on Ye family survivors more than a decade before. 3 rounds. Draws counted as losses. The pit opened a little each time. Long Yun won the first round. He lost the second. Before the rope could cut, a man in a traveling robe blurred in from the tree line and caught Long Ruking half a body above the spikes. Heavenly realm. Zhou family. Liu Baiye stepped into his path before the Zhou master could reach Ye Tian, and a heavenly exchange opened across the clearing. Loud, short, nothing broken that the mountain could not absorb. Long Yun, rope cut from his wrists, dice still in his hand, understood in one motion. The Zhou family had not saved his daughter. The Zhou family had taken his daughter. Vassalage was being rewritten in real time, and the new contract had his name scratched out of it. He broke. He told Ye Tian everything. I listened through Shadow 3's channel from a ridge half a kilometer east and wrote as he spoke. The Long family had never been the real authors of the Ye family massacre. They were a front. The orders came came from farther up the chain, a group of mysterious figures, above heavenly realm, operating through the Zhou family as their reachable hand, had wanted something the Ye family had. They had taken it. They had silenced every witness. The Long family had been handed the receipt afterward and told to carry it for a generation. And one more thing, Long Yun said. Ye Tian may not be Ye. The couple who had raised him may not have been his parents. The masters who sent the Long family to clean the Ye family may have been hunting him. I wrote hidden masters in my notebook. I drew a second question mark beside it. The first had been Uncle Long months ago, next to Ye Tian's name. Now there were two, and they were the same question, and the novel I had read in my other life did not have either of them. Ye Tian ended Long Yun with an open palm to the forehead. One stroke. A man's whole world crossed off in a single line. Then, Liu Baiye shoved Ye Tian toward the trees and told him to run. The Zhou Heavenly stayed on Liu Baiye's blade long enough for Ye Tian to be elsewhere. I watched him run. I did not move. I had come for intelligence, not a body. The intelligence had just arrived. I closed the notebook. Old Ghost, beside me, poured tea into a small cup and passed it. I drank it standing. By dawn, Ye Tian was on a forested outskirt 2 counties over, alone, out of internal energy. Carrying a box of spiritual herbs he had cut out of the long dead, he stopped at a stream to wash the blood off his hands, and Su Yi walked out of the tree line. The Su Yi that had been a jealous boy haunting a girl he could not reach. The Su Yi I had fed through Old Ghost into the Rakshasa pipeline. The Su Yi I had handed, via Rakshasa, a complete blood god technique and a gold tier power pill. He swallowed the pill in front of Ye Tian. He burned the technique. Earth realm, mid-earth, late earth. His blood caught fire the way the scroll had said it would, and he matched Ye Tian's ceiling for the first time in his life. Ye Tian took the hit of meeting him there and smiled anyway. Late earth, injured, against late earth, uninjured, was still Ye Tian's fight. He ran fiery dragon fist up to perfection and wrapped a red dragon around one clean strike. The forest blew outward in a quarter-kilometer ring. Su Yi went quiet. Then Ye Tian crossed to the body and bent to pick up the scroll still strapped to Su Yi's chest, and Su Yi opened his eyes. The aura concealment technique Rakshasa had mailed him months ago did exactly what the scroll had promised. Ye Tian went down under a flurry of punches from a man he had just cratered. Both of them burned out into hand to hand. Su Yi caught Ye Tian off guard with a low strike and threw a handful of blinding powder into his eyes. Su Yi rolled out of the crater with the herbs Ye Tian had taken off Long Yun and vanished into the trees. Old Ghost on the ridge beside me made a small approving sound. The jealous childhood friend had just handed the protagonist of Destiny his first real defeat. Both of them were on my leash, and neither of them knew it. I would have let Old Ghost's sound stand as commentary for the whole phase if the engines of the Great Xia State had not chosen that exact moment to arrive. Situ Yan, in her dragon group black, Uncle Xiao beside her, 3 silver bars on his shoulder, late heavenly realm, silent in a sedan's shadow, a detachment fanned behind them. They had come to arrest Ye Tian for the Long extermination and the Jinghai attacks we had, together and separately, both caused. Ye Tian, blind and empty, made his last stand in the dirt. Uncle Xiao pressed his aura down on him, the way a man presses a pin through an insect. Ye Tian went to his knees and called out to an uncle whose name had never been his to call. Something moved in the air over Uncle Xiao's head. An old man in a plain gray tunic, iron gray hair parted neatly, the kind of face a village carpenter wears. He stepped out of an arc of space that had not been open a second earlier. He put 2 fingers to Ye Tian's eyes, and the toxin on them simply left, the way rain leaves stone in the sun. He straightened and looked at Uncle Xiao, and Uncle Xiao reread the room. 2 peers. The old man spoke 3 sentences I could not hear. Uncle Xiao stopped advancing. The 2 of them lifted into the tree line on a slow exchange of blows that pulled them past the ridge I was sitting on and over a second ridge beyond it. Somewhere, a mountain could absorb a heavenly duel without anyone at a dinner table noticing. Ye Tian looked up at his rescuer, blood on his face, and asked for a name. The old man gave him one, Uncle Long. Then he was gone, and Ye Tian was gone with him. I looked at Old Ghost. Old Ghost looked at me. Then we spoke at the same time and said the same thing. Whetstone. Every cliff fall Ye Tian had survived. Every poisoning that had not taken. Every impossible recovery the book I had read had let him have. I had filed them as plot armor. They had not been plot armor. They had been a man in a gray tunic standing just out of frame, keeping a weapon alive long enough to finish forging. The hidden masters wanted Ye Tian polished. They wanted me polishing him. I wrote whetstone under hidden masters and underlined both. Then I kept working, knowing the shape of a trap is not getting out of it. It is the first step toward a door. Uncle Long set Ye Tian down in the Qinling Mountains and withdrew, spent. Situ Yun tracked him there within the day. She cornered him on a cliff's edge. Ye Tian, cornered, chose to die his way. He grabbed her by the wrist and took her over with him. The ravine was deep enough to erase a state investigation. Both of them lived, of course. Protagonists of Destiny do not die to gravity, and Dragon Group captains with top-grade artifacts in their belts do not either. At the bottom, a white tiger came out of the mist, big as a small car, eyes that had been waiting for something like Ye Tian's blood its whole life. Ye Tian, already hollow, burned his ancient battle body early, a hidden inheritance that should have bloomed at Heavenly Realm with 3 talents fused into it. He took 1 talent, Berserk, at the cost of his origin and 10 times his physical strength for a short window. His Heavenly Realm future got smaller by a number he would not be able to write down. Even with that, they could not kill the tiger. Situ Yan, who had been carrying a top-grade ice silkworm net the entire time, finally pulled it out and trapped the beast. Ye Tian nearly killed her for the withholding. He did not. She had other artifacts in her coat, and he knew it. They left the net in the grass and moved on, looking for an exit. I arrived at the net a quarter hour later, with Old Ghost beside me and nothing in my hands. I told Old Ghost to cut the net. The tiger came at me the way it had come at Ye Tian. I let it. Mid-grade Zhuan body against a bronze-clawed mountain beast is a fair test of materials. My fist met its first strike and stopped it. I pinned it. I offered it the choice it had not been offered before. Kneel or continue. It continued. The contest lasted as long as the tiger's pride and ended when its pride did. Then I put 2 fingers on the crown of its head and left a mental imprint the way the system taught me. The imprint held. A spent thing cannot resist an imprint. It has nothing left to push back with. I fed it a top-grade healing herb. It licked my hand the way a dog licks a hand when the dog has finally understood where it lives. I named it Xiao Bai, Little White. I told it to lead. We went after Ye Tian and Situ Yan through the passage they had already opened. Behind a waterfall, there was a man-made door. Ye Tian had triggered a crossbow trap and been pulled out by Situ Yan's whip. Situ Yan had then thrown a grenade through the passage, tripped every pressure plate at once, and melted every dart in a wash of green venom because she was Situ Yan and she had had a grenade the whole time. They had broken through a formation-sealed stone door with a formation-breaking cone she had also had the whole time and stepped into a chamber I had filed under a sacred site footnote more than 100 chapters ago. A lava pool the size of a small courtyard, colored fish swimming in the lava the way fish swim in summer water, a single lotus-shaped elixir rising out of the deepest red at the center, radiating cultivation potential. Ye Tian and Situ Yan moved on it. They almost drew on each other. They almost agreed to split it. Then the elixir released a gas, a defense baked into the chamber by whoever had cultivated the lotus, a cultivation-suppressing aerosol that locked the chi of any cultivator below Heavenly Realm. Ye Tian's late Earth Realm went still. Situ Yan's mid-Heavenly Realm slowed to a crawl, both of them back toward the door. Both of them stopped because the door had closed behind them on a formation neither of them could break in their current state. The chamber door opened from the outside. Old Ghost came through with a filter over his face. Xiao Bai came through behind him, low and silent. I came through last with my own filter on and an antidote bottle in my hand. I crossed the chamber to Ye Tian first. I did not speak to him. I did not owe him a sentence. I hit him once, clean, in the temple, and the protagonist of Destiny slumped against the stone pillar without dignity. Old Ghost tied him. Thick rope, a stone ring for an anchor, a gag. The Wolf King, the future world-shaking cultivator. The man the novel I had read had been named after, sat tied at the edge of the chamber like luggage that had been waiting for its owner. Xiao Bai watched him without pity. I watched him without anything. I left the lotus in the pool. A peak Earth Realm Xuan body with 6 Bodhi leaves banked did not need a lotus. The lotus was Ye Tian's now, to absorb unconscious, through his own skin, while tied to a rock. A last insulting gift from the man he still thought he was beating. I turned to Situ Yan. She was on her knees with one hand against the wall, breathing slowly, fighting the suppression. She knew exactly who had walked through the door. She knew exactly what a Dragon Group captain looked like when she'd been pulled out of an investigation by the man she'd been investigating. The professional pride that the painted turtle in the interrogation room and the painted turtle on the cordon had been chipping at finally went out under the lava light. I crouched down at her level. I gave her the antidote. I told her, in the same easy tone I had used at the cordon, that the long extermination was about to close on Yetian, that her file was about to receive a Dragon Group commendation she did not yet realize she had earned, and that her superior was about to sign off on a transfer she had not yet asked for. I told her she would not remember the chamber. I told her she would remember everything else. She said one word back, my name. I let it land. I closed my eyes for a heartbeat. The account between us, the painted face in the interrogation room and the painted face on the cordon, did not balance with the sentence. It did not balance at all. We had simply walked far enough into each other's stories that the math the original book had written had stopped applying. I had old Ghost carry her out without a hand on her that did not need to be there. I let my back find the wall. Yetian slumped to my left, tied to his pillar, breathing slowly through his gag. Xiaobai lay across the chamber door, watching without moving. The lotus in the pool glowed. The hidden masters were still out there, on the map I had just started drawing, untouched. Uncle Long was somewhere on a distant ridge, spent. The Zhou family had lost 3 men to me and did not know whose hand. Ye Qingyan was at home with a Xuanyin heart the size of my palm, waiting to be activated at her leisure. Chu Mengyao walked the Chu estate in her own face as a shape that remembered nothing. The Jiang family had 10 half-step heavenlies it had not owned a month ago, and a mid-grade Zhuanbody heir it had not known it was raising. And somewhere in a room I had not found yet, a group of men above heavenly realm were running a game in which I had just taken a seat. I tipped my head back and looked at the lava light on the ceiling. The system chimed. I closed the notebook. I stood up. The story I had read in my other life had been about Ye Tian. The story I was writing now was not. Anyway,